What's up, sports fans, and welcome to the Sports Opinions Podcast. I'm your host, as always, Alex Cuesta. Find me on Twitter at @A_Cuesta30, and find Sports Opinions on Twitter at SportsOpinion30. And this is the first official actual episode that is ever going to be on iTunes, Google Play Music, Spreaker.com, and YouTube. So whichever way you prefer to listen to this, if you're listening to this, thank you. Make sure you go ahead and click subscribe as well. So with me today on my first ever big time podcast, which I like to call it big time, I'm a lot more places now, is a former teammate of mine over on Marist Track and Field, and Pete Colizzo's favorite former athlete, without a doubt, Mr. Billy Hild. What's up, Billy?
Oh boy, I'm the first on the big show. Big standard to hold myself to.
Without a doubt. Billy, social media wise, Twitter, Instagram, anything you want to give out?
Yeah, my Twitter and my Instagram are the same. It's Runnin' Hillbilly. It's one word, so it's running but without the G at the end, and then HILLBILLY. My Instagram is really boring. It's just concerts and sporting events that I go to pretty much. My Twitter is a little more entertaining because I retweet memes about my horrible sports teams.
There you go. And the value also of Billy is he's one of the rare people that actually interacts with sports opinions on Twitter. So that's always nice. It's interesting, Billy. Recently, Kyle Havard interacted with me, and I haven't talked to him in years. So that was pretty cool.
I didn't see that.
That was pretty cool. And yeah, it's kind of funny. Kind of poo-pooed on my prediction with OKC, I think, without even knowing it, which was an awful prediction because OKC sucks right now.
Well, Kyle poo-poos on everybody.
That is Kyle. But shout out to Kyle Havard. Thanks for even interacting. We appreciate that one. So we're going to start off. Billy is a New York sports guy. He's also from the same area, New York area that we're in, around Marist College. So I'm a New York sports guy. It's going to be a very New York heavy podcast. So if you're not a New York sports fan, continue to listen anyway because I want more listens. But we're going to start off actually with the most important thing going on in all of sports, not just New York, not just California, and everywhere. The most important thing. Mike Francesa is back on the radio officially. Mike's on. And I know, Billy, you've been a big Mike Francesa fan. Have you been listening faithfully since he's been back on?
Well, first off, I'm a little disappointed you didn't ask us to sing the Mike's On theme song like Joe Beningo and Evan Roberts do when they fill in for him. But of course, I'm excited that Mike's back.
We still can. We still can. You want to sing or you want to be the air guitar?
Let's not do it. I was kidding. But yeah, I was excited to hear that Mike came back. I listened to him every day at work. I listened to Joe and Evan in the midday, and then I would listen to Mike in the afternoon. And even when Mike left, I was still listening to the people that replaced him, Chris Carlin and Maggie Gray and Bart Scott.
Quickly, what are your feelings about the afternoon drive and what it was? Me personally, I'm not a big fan of Craig Carlin. It's not to knock the guy. He's gotten where he's gotten because he's done pretty well for himself. I really liked Maggie, and I think Bart was starting to learn. What were your feelings on that group?
I had similar feelings. Carlin, to me, I didn't like or hate him. He just kind of was there. He was kind of a show driver, but not incredibly strong. And again, I like all three of them, but this is just my opinion. Maggie I liked a lot. And Bart, he was a little too hot take for me, especially with the football stuff. But I did think they were getting better, which is to be expected. They didn't know each other when they started. And the show is getting a little better over time. And I'm a big fan of WFAN too, so I was really pulling for them to succeed. And I still think they can be successful there, but I'm also happy that Mike's back too.
So, speaking of Mike, one of the big things that he announced on his show, if you don't listen to Mike Francesa on Sports Radio 66, 1019 FM, WFAN New York. Yeah, I gave him a little plug. Be happy, guys. Hire me. But one of the things he talked about is he came back. He was really working on creating an app, the Mike's On app, where he's going to have himself, obviously, but he also wants to branch out and have other personalities. Are you going to download that app?
Well, number one, let's point out that Mike is not particularly great with technology, so I'll kind of believe it when I see it. But when it comes out...
He has a Twitter now. He has a Twitter now. That's a big step.
Twitter that he doesn't use.
He will. He will start to use it more. Believe me, when Mike wants his opinion out, he'll figure out any way to get it out if it's not only on the radio.
Mons tweets for him, I think.
Probably.
but when it comes out, we'll see what it actually is, because he hasn't really said what it's going to be yet. And it depends on the pricing, because he did say that there was going to be a free part of it, and there's also going to be a subscription part of it, too. I have a lot of old Francesa audio on my computer. The entire Ben McAdoo rant when Eli Manning was benched.
That's one of his best of all time.
It was incredible. Well over an hour of just him screaming and callers yelling and everything. I stayed at work for an extra hour and a half that day because I didn't want to go to my car and miss anything. So I just stayed at work listening to Mike Francesa on November 29th, or I think it was November 29th. So, we'll see what it actually is. If it has archival footage or archival audio, especially with Mike and Mad Dog, I'll probably be in on it.
Now, I'm interested because he did do that spot with the Mad Dog not too long ago. I think it was on NFL Network, which I really think is what sparked him to come back, because he was really good on there. Him and the dog automatically had their chemistry back again. What are the chances you see him potentially, because one of the things he did say about the app was he wanted to get some fresh voices on there. He wanted to do something different. It seems like he wanted to make it kind of an app radio type of deal where anytime you go on the app, you can listen live to something, but you can also get the archival stuff. That's if I was kind of reading him correctly with the way he was describing it. But we never know with Mike, because Mike is Mike and he says things and then we'll do the complete and total opposite. So who the hell knows? But
just like his predictions.
Predictions.
He guarantees, that there's... Like last year, he said, "No, there's no way that Aaron Judge is going to be on the Yankees this year. He's not ready to play." And Judge was second in MVP voting in the AL. So that's just one of the many times Mike's gotten something completely wrong.
Yeah, one of the many, but we keep on going back. Now, one thing is he did mention that his contract was for 3 more years. So he's officially going to be on the air for 3 years. Do you think that he stays on past that, or you think this is going to be it? Do you think it's going to finally catch up to him?
I have no idea. I think as long as his ratings are there, he's going to want to keep doing it. But after he had a 2-year-long retirement tour and came back in 4 months, it's very hard for me to see how he's going to step away from WFAN again and go through all that. Because, of course, he's already getting callers that are calling him out saying, "Hey, Mike, what happened?" There was one guy who asked him if Matt Harvey's stint in the Mets bullpen, and we'll get to Matt Harvey later, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But is Matt Harvey's stint in the bullpen on the Mets going to be longer than your retirement? And I forgot what Francesa said, but Francesa hung up on him pretty quickly.
But so with Mike, we don't know if he's going to stay around past the 3 years, and that's it's always interesting with Mike Francesa. You never know exactly what he's going to do. But I kind of find it interesting that they kept the afternoon drive on before him. I think it might be a way of kind of grooming them in order, if he does leave again, to take that spot back.
Yeah, and Mike did take less money to come back, I believe. So I'm not completely sure if WFAN could buy out the 3 people that replaced him. So they might just be trying to find a spot for them. I really don't know. You also have to remember, too, Steve Somers is kind of up there in years. So who knows how much longer Steve Somers is going to want to stay on the station.
Can't leave. The Schmooze can't leave. He can't. He's not allowed to.
I know. He's an icon. And Joe Beningo as well. Joe Beningo is the same age as Mike. And Joe Beningo has a lot more stress because of his teams.
I could do without Joe Beningo. Joe Beningo is kind of a homer, and the sky's always falling. And he's a Jets fan. I'm a Jets fan. But
the sky's always falling if you're a Jet fan.
Yeah, but I guess if you're, I guess his age and you've seen as much as he has, I've seen some success as a Jets fan. I've seen Vinny Testaverde play well. I've seen Chad Pennington play well. So it's not like I've seen
title games with Sanchez.
I haven't seen all the doom and gloom that he has. Now, funny tidbit with Mike Francesa that I heard that is really great is when ESPN obviously approached him. I think everyone approached him to come back on the air because why wouldn't they? His one stipulation was they had to fire Michael Kay. And I love that about Mike Francesa and how much he hates Michael Kay. And I think the fact that he saw his time slot lose once to Michael Kay in this short time. So I think it was right before he came back a few weeks, Michael Kay won the week. And it was like a big deal to Michael Kay because whenever he wins that slot, it's like the Yankees winning the World Series because he drags down Don LaGreca for Don LaGreca's whole friggin' career. But I digress. Yeah. But so I found that really funny. That's typical Mike stuff. And yeah, he came back for less money just so we can kick Michael Kay's ass some more, which is awesome.
Yeah. I mean, I don't listen to Kay's show, so I have no comment. I've listened to a couple of LaGreca's rants. And yeah, he's funny. Sometimes it comes across as a little inauthentic, like they're trying to be angry.
A little bit, but I listened to Michael Kay a little bit back in the day because there were times where the fan didn't come in well where I was in Jersey when I went back down. So I had ESPN New York. So I would listen to it. And it was only when it was Kay and LaGreca and they stopped adding the ridiculous third person that they had. Because Peter Rosenberg is just, I don't know what he is. He's just annoying. Nothing there. He sucks. But
yeah, he's annoying.
It was okay when they had Rucco come on because I like Ryan Rucco. But yeah, Rosenberg's useless. But when it was just him and LaGreca, now LaGreca's a great play-by-play guy too. He's a Rangers play-by-play guy. I think he's fantastic at his job. Really good what he does there. And on the radio, his opinions are much more valid. And it's kind of, he's there to be the straight guy to Michael Kay's stupid. Like, I'm a big Yankees fan, and I'm not a fan of him as in calling games. I'd much rather watch a game on TV and turn on John Sterling and listen to him call it on the radio.
And that says a lot because, I mean, I know there are a lot of people that don't like John Sterling either.
Yeah, but John Sterling, when he retires, is going to get, like, the same Vince Scully treatment because he's an icon. 30-plus years doing it. It's unbelievable. Yeah, well,
he's an institution.
Listen, the nation reacted when he did the awful call with Giancarlo Stanton. You don't get the negative response he got if you're just some radio guy. He literally, it was everywhere that call was awful. And it wasn't just New York radio. So that's how you know you're a guy.
No si puesto parlo.
It was so bad.
And then Stanton had a terrible slump after that, of course.
Exactly. But he's starting to slowly work out of it. We'll get to baseball in a little bit. We're going to go and move on to the McAdoo-less, the Reese-less New York Giants. Recently, draft day, obviously, the Giants had the number 2 pick. They picked who I thought they shouldn't have picked, but now looking back at everything that they've done, Dave Gettleman, spack and kill former coach. What up, Dave?
Yep.
Now that I look at everything that he's done, and I really should have trusted the guy knowing his background in Carolina, Shaquan Barkley can work out because he beefed up the line. He picked up Will Hernandez, who's one of my favorite linemen because he's just a little bull. Nate Solder. There's a lot of things. They got Omame. They've done some nice things on that line. Do you overall like the draft that the Giants had?
I feel very similar to how you did. And I'm a Giant. I've been a Giant fan since 2001. So I've been watching for 17 to 18 years. And the amount of games I've missed since that time frame, you can probably count on 2 hands. I mean, it's less than 10. I watch every game, even in this past season when they were horrible.
So you didn't watch anything? You watched one team play football and the Giants not even try.
Right, exactly. I did. The one game that I missed this year actually was the Rams game, which was probably the worst one because I was running the New York City Marathon that day, so I didn't miss anything at all.
You see, the tag running hillbilly, he doesn't take it lightly. He runs marathons.
Yeah, exactly.
I tried to run the marathon. I'm a fat former guy that barely can run around my block, so there you go.
Yeah. Anyway, back to the draft. I'm an Eli guy. I've always been a big fan of Eli Manning, and I thought in the past few years the Giants really failed at giving him a good supporting cast, with Odell Beckham being one of the 2 exceptions. Obviously, Odell Beckham is tremendous. But the defense has been bottom of the league in 3 of the last 4 seasons, and 2 of those seasons in 2014, 2015 were 2 of Eli's best as a pro. I think 2014 he threw for over 4,000 yards and 30 touchdowns, 14 interceptions, and I think 2015 he threw for his career high in touchdown passes. So he had 2 very good seasons those years, and obviously this past year he was not very good, but I still think there were bigger problems there. The injuries to the receivers, the poor offensive line play, and McAdoo. We don't have to get into McAdoo. He's gone. He was terrible. I don't think he ever should have been in the job in the first place. With all that said, Eli's 37, and I thought the Giants should have taken a quarterback. I like Sam Darnold and Josh Rosen the most. I thought Baker Mayfield was interesting. The Big 12 quarterbacks, they typically don't succeed in the NFL, so I was a little iffy. Josh Allen I wasn't high on. Lamar Jackson would have been a huge reach at 2. So I was a big quarterback guy. I said this is the right time. You can throw Eli out there for one more year. He's owed $20.5 million. His contract's up after the 2019 season. So I was, as I said, I was a QB guy. But even with that said, they went the way that they did. They took Barkley at number 2, the running back out of Penn State. The last time we had a running back come out of Penn State to a New York team with the number 2 pick in the draft was Blair Thomas with the New York Jets.
Look at the history right there. Look at the history.
Yeah, I know. I did my research on this going into the draft. So hopefully Saquon Barkley has a better career than Blair Thomas did. But anyway, the Giants draft class, I think Dave Gettleman had a vision to build the team from the inside out. He said from day one, I believe in building the team from the inside out.
The hog mollies. He likes the hog mollies.
Stop the run. He loves the hog mollies. So Barkley I liked at first. And then they took Will Hernandez, the offensive guard out of UTEP, in the second round. And Will Hernandez, as you alluded to, I thought was my favorite pick. A lot of people had this guy as a first-round talent going in the 20s, and he was there for the Giants at number 34 in the second round, number 34 overall. So I was really happy that they got him, and he's a big run-stopping guard. It makes our offensive line better. It's going to make Barkley better. So I was thrilled with those 2 picks. I'll get to the other picks too, but also as far as Barkley goes, I would be lying if I said I wasn't excited thinking about what that offense could be, both this upcoming season and the next couple of years with him, as well as Odell Beckham. We know what he is. Evan Ingram is a matchup nightmare. He's basically a wide receiver playing tight end. He's huge. He's fast. And you also have some of these lesser role player guys like Sterling Shepard and Rhett Ellison, who I thought was completely underused last year.
Well, you can't discount Tavares King and the growth. Tavares King, and who was the other young wide receiver? I think he was from Florida State. You have 2 guys that got a lot of playing time last year, which adds a lot of value to your number 3, 4 wide receiver. So now you have guys that have NFL experience playing, which I think is massive.
Well, the Giants wide receiver has actually led the league in drops last year, so let's not go crazy about the guys they had playing. Roger Lewis, he's out of Bowling Green. I don't know where Bowling Green is. I think it's in the Midwest.
I think it's Ohio. Bowling Green is Ohio.
Yeah, that's what I thought, Ohio. And he was kind of like their top guy after Beckham and Brandon Marshall, who's now gone. Brandon Marshall was cut a couple weeks ago.
But, less pressure on them may help because it was so much pressure to perform. And now when it's just, 2nd and 7 and they run a little drag route across the middle, that drop might not be there because there's a lot less pressure because okay, if I get 2 yards now, Odell's going to score a touchdown on the next slant. So it doesn't make a difference. Or Shaquan's going to break a run. Like, the pressure is not there like it was last year because there was no run game. They didn't use Gallman correctly. I like Wayne Gallman. They didn't use him. They gave up on the run after 3 runs every game. So I think the issues are going to, a lot of them, be fixed. And like you said about Hernandez, he reminds me of a Kevin Mawai, but a guard, where a little undersized, a little more athletic than you would think, but just a mauler, a bull. And I think he's just going to be a dude where, he needs to play left guard. You need to put him next to Nate Solder and just let Barkley run behind those 2 guys, because right there, you put those 2 there, they're going to push back anyone at least a yard or 2. So it would be a smart thing to put him at left guard, put Omame at right guard, and then let Eric Flowers kind of go somewhere.
Yeah, well, we don't have to get into Flowers because I don't even think he's going to be on the team.
Good, he's useless.
The season starts, and even if he is on the team, I don't even think he'll start. The team is pretty high on Chad Wheeler, who is an undrafted rookie out of USC last year, and he performed about as you would expect for an undrafted free agent. He fell in the draft because of some off-the-field issues, but he had some good games too, and they're very high on his development. And the Giants have had pretty good success in the past with undrafted guys being really good. Sean O'Hara was an all-pro center for them. He was undrafted. Rich Seibert was on the best Giants offensive line ever. the 2005 through 2008 line, and he was an undrafted player. So they do pretty well with their undrafted guys.
That has to go with the scouting group, and I think Gettleman will also continue that because he's a hell of a GM. Now, one guy that interests me, I know we're going to go down and look through the picks, but Kyle Lauletta, seems to be the heir apparent guy. They picked him up. What do you think about Lauletta? He'll get a chance to compete with Davis Webb, and I guess we'll really find out what Davis Webb is made of, whether or not he relinquishes the backup spot at some point or he takes it by the reins. What do you think of Lauletta?
Yeah, I was very intrigued by the Lauletta pick because I thought if the Giants felt their quarterback was in need, they should have taken a guy with a number 2 pick. But the more that I read about Lauletta, the more I liked him. He has a very good attitude. His decision-making is sound, and he's accurate.
He made Todd McShay cry. Deal. Todd McShay was basically crying when the pick was there because he's Richmond.
I did read about that.
And literally, I was watching it, and he got picked, and all of a sudden, I hear Mel Kiper, and I hear McShay like, oh. Mel Kiper's like, you could take a moment. It's like, wait, Marty Smith didn't cry, and he was, I forget which game he was at for March Madness. He watched a buzzer beater to get in, but you're going to cry over a draft pick? Like, you need that. That was a little much for me.
Yeah. I actually didn't see that because I wasn't watching the draft when Lauletta got drafted. I was out doing other stuff.
You were living your life while I was being a draft junkie.
Yeah, I mean, I'll read up on the picks. I watch like the first 2 days, and then after I'm just kind of like, okay,
like everyone else. I just watch it.
The 2 big knocks on Lauletta. One is he comes from a small football school, University of Richmond, the Spiders.
Which I think is a stupid knock. There's a lot of players that come from small schools. Let's take a look at Brett Favre. Come on now.
Absolutely, yeah. Although it's funny, Lauletta's player profile is very different from Brett Favre's.
Well, yeah, but I'm talking about the small school comparison. I think that could be, we could talk about small schools, Carson Wentz. We could talk about Flacco.
Yep.
So it's like the small school comparison's useless to me in terms of draft.
Right. I always say, if you can play, you can play.
Exactly.
Right? Sure, his competition's probably weaker, but at the same time, his supporting cast is also probably not as good either.
Exactly.
So
that was my argument.
Out to an extent.
That was my argument with Josh Allen with a lot of people, but we won't talk about Josh. We'll continue on Kyle.
Yeah. And the other knock I read on him is his arm isn't that strong. But I did a little more digging into this, and his combine numbers, he threw 52 miles per hour, which isn't particularly high, but Drew Brees threw the same. Drew Brees threw 52 miles per hour, and Drew Brees has ended up having a pretty good career. And Dak Prescott on the Cowboys threw 54.
And also, there's something to be said.
So far.
There's something to be said about entering the NFL and entering the NFL lifting program and coming in there still as a young man and developing into a man with these people. So What is he, 22 at most? Because I think he was a senior. And it's like he's 22, so he's going to enter a real lifting program for the first time. Not to knock Richmond, but you can't compare it to the pros. And,
of course not.
And then he's also going to learn better technique, more than likely, to get more effect, to drive from his legs a little more. There's going to be a lot of differences, and like you said, and 52 miles per hour is more than enough to throw a deep out professionally. So,
yeah, I mean, he needs to not have balls that float. But
hey, Chad Pennington, that was his specialty, and Chad Pennington was a hell of a quarterback, so you can't always say that.
Yeah, Pennington looked like he was going to be a solid quarterback before the rotator cuff injury.
No, that could knock anyone, yeah.
Yeah, and we've seen a lot of careers being disrailed or whatever.
Derailed, derailed. You were close.
Yeah.
You were close.
Yeah, I'm like, I know this word, I couldn't think of it. But they interviewed Giants head coach Pat Shurmur about Lauletta, and he said, arm strength to me is like the 4th most important thing. And Shurmur is a big quarterback guy. He came up as a quarterback coach. He was with the Eagles with Donovan McNabb, and then he ended up being the offensive coordinator for the Vikings before he was with the Giants. So I got to trust Shurmur's judgment on this. If Shurmur thinks that this kid can be good, he's going to squeeze everything he can get out of him.
Well, yeah, you can get someone stronger. You could teach him how to make better reads properly, but you can't teach them accuracy. And one thing that Lauletta had was he was an accurate quarterback. He made some bad decisions, but when he made the proper decision, he fit it into tight windows. He knew how to put the proper amount of touch, which is another thing you can't teach. So it really is, again, you said Shermer's a quarterback guy. They wouldn't have picked him if Shermer wasn't confident in what he saw on tape.
Yeah, and I think this was a pick that was very much a Pat Shermer pick. Pat Shermer wanted this guy. Some people had as high as a second-round grade on him, which I think is pretty special. And some people said, some draft pundits said he might be the fourth best quarterback in the draft. Now, I'm not saying he's going to be great because we've seen a lot of quarterbacks come out in the third, fourth, fifth rounds, and they're out of the league after a couple of years. But I think Laletta is the kind of guy that you would want for a project quarterback.
Without a doubt. And, he was a good pick. He was a safe pick. He was a value pick there. And he addressed the need where, it adds Davis Webb with a little more competition. It gives Eli another heir apparent, but doesn't threaten Eli. It accomplished everything that the Giants needed without stepping on anyone's toes, really, which is masterful to do with a bunch of prima donna pros.
Right. And I think Davis Webb can be a pretty good player, too. I mean, obviously, we've never seen him play. But his attitude in the year that he's been here has been great. Everyone in the locker room says how much of a great work ethic he has and so on. And I've seen some videos of him working with coaches behind the scenes. He looks like his footwork has improved since he was at California. So Webb could end up being good too. But I like that the Giants are not just going to automatically, whenever Eli is done, whether it's after this year or after next year, they're not just going to give the job to Webb right away. They're going to take the best quarterback of the ones that they have.
Without a doubt. So we covered offense. We talked about the 3 offensive picks. We're going to run through the defensive picks because the next 3 that the Giants had, third round outside linebacker Lorenzo Carter out of Georgia, and then third round again, North Carolina State defensive tackle B.J. Hill, and adding depth, fifth round Miami defensive tackle R.J. McIntosh. The one thing I liked, they added depth and they also addressed linebacker, which has been a problem, a weakness for the Giants. And I really, really like Lorenzo Carter. If you ever watched Georgia play, you knew exactly where he was on the field on defense at all times. He's a freak. He's an edge rusher. He's going to add to the Giants exactly what they used to have with the edge rush. They got rid of JPP, so they needed to add someone.
It was a terrible contract. JPP was one of the worst contracts in the league.
But this is a really good pick. I like the Lorenzo Carter pick. I like the depth added. I really think Gettleman in his first draft had an outstanding draft.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of articles have been written about from beat writers such as Paul Schwartz, who just put one out yesterday. The Giants haven't felt this good about a draft in a long time.
I don't think New York in general has felt as good about a draft between the Giants and the Jets. It's great.
Of course, as Gettleman said, you're never going to find a GM that's going to go up there and tell you that they just drafted crap. And that's the direct word that he used. He said, no GM's going to tell you they drafted crap. But I think they had a vision and they executed it. And to go through the 3 picks, so Lorenzo Carter, the Giants are transitioning to a 3-4 defense. So 3 defensive linemen, 4 linebackers instead of a 4-3. The last time the Giants operated out of the 3-4, I think LT was still on the team. It was that long ago. They've been a 4-3 team as long as I can remember. And linebackers a weakness, and you're going to have 4 on the field. So it's Alec Ogletree they traded for about a month ago, almost 2 months ago. 26-year-old player who was pretty good with the ramp, so he's definitely going to come in and help. And Carter, some people had a second-round grade on him. So to get him in the third, and we picked second in the third round, I think. I think we might have moved back because of a trade or something, but either way, we got him early in the third round, so I'm happy. I think he's going to fit James Betcher's scheme perfectly. He's a little raw, but I think he has high upside. He won't start right away, but he's definitely going to play. And he might even be starting by midseason or so. And then the other 2 guys, B.J. Hill, R.J. McIntosh. Hill's out of NC State. McIntosh is out of the University of Miami. Defensive line depth. Dave Gettleman believes in having a lot of rotational depth on the defensive line, which makes a lot of sense considering that part of the Giants' Super Bowl 42 victory, which was now 10 years ago, was a big part of the fact that they had so many defensive linemen that they could sub in and keep fresh. And last year, we had no depth on the defensive line. Olivier Vernon and Jason Pierre-Paul played something like 80% of the snaps or more and it showed. Both played hurt. Both of them were tired. So good value, good depth there, which is what for a guy that's drafted in the 5th round, you want a guy that's going to provide depth and contribute for you.
Exactly. So, again, I think Gettleman had a really good draft. But we're going to move away from the Giants for a second.
Yep.
Curious, if it can be on the Giants, it could be all the Giants, but who was your favorite pick out of all the draft?
So, I don't know if I have one individual pick. Now, there were a couple teams that caught my attention, though.
So we could do both. We'll do twofold, because I had favorite pick or most improved team, so you could talk about whichever one you want here.
So I'll do both. I like that the Jets took Sam Darnold.
Hey.
I thought that the Giants were going to take him when Cleveland took Baker Mayfield number 1. Darnold's not a perfect player, but I think he has the right attitude to succeed in New York. He reminds me a lot of Eli coming out of college. Turnovers, again, reminds me a lot of Eli Manning. I'm not saying he's going to be Eli Manning and win 2 Super Bowls and start 210 consecutive games.
I mean, he better.
But, I mean, it'd be nice. You'd take that as a Jet fan.
Hell yeah.
Did that for you. But what's also really great about Darnold is the Jets' current quarterback situation when you have Josh McCown already there, who started most of the season last year, and you have Teddy Bridgewater, who's coming off of an injury but was a former, I think he was a first-round pick with the Vikings, or he was a high second-round pick, something like that.
He's a first-round pick, and he's throwing, and he's starting to run, so that's a good sign for him.
So the bottom line is you don't have to rush Sam Darnold in there. You can take your time and develop it. He could sit all year, and I don't know if he's going to do that.
Yeah, don't tell Jet fans that. Jet fans want him in the game yesterday.
Right, I know. But unlike Mark Sanchez, who was starting right away, or Geno Smith, who was starting right away, you don't have to rush Darnold and potentially hurt his confidence early. So I think Darnold's problems are the most fixable. He said a lot of his turnovers are because of fumbles as opposed to interceptions.
Because he takes his left hand off the damn ball and holds it in one hand. And I swear to God, if I have to watch another starting quarterback fumble the ball every time he's hit, I will be pissed.
I saw that a lot with Eli last year. I mean, Eli, I think he had to have fumbled probably 5 or 6 times.
Eli was playing scared last year. For the first time in his career, he was playing scared. And for good reason. He was dying.
Yeah, so the Jets are one of the teams that I thought had a good draft. The Jets got the quarterback. I like what the Colts did.
Yes.
They drafted 2 guards with their first 3 picks, including Quentin Nelson, who a lot of people said might be the best overall value in the draft. Barkley's the best player, but Quentin Nelson was almost rated as highly as Barkley was. Nelson is a guy plug and play week 1. The Colts have not had any help for Andrew Luck for forever. Now Andrew Luck is hurt. We don't know if Andrew Luck's ever going to be the same again because nobody's really saying anything. But Quentin Nelson right away will help the Colts, and they also drafted another guard early too. So whoever would have thought that you need to protect your hugely paid quarterback with offensive linemen that can block, right?
Oh, yeah.
Another team that I thought had a pretty good draft was the Ravens. The Ravens trading up for Lamar Jackson I thought was very interesting. I wasn't sure I wanted the Giants to draft Lamar Jackson, but the Ravens traded back. They still got a good player in the first round, and then they got Lamar Jackson. Joe Flacco's been kind of mediocre for a while now, and they could get his potential successor in Lamar Jackson. And Lamar Jackson, I think, as long as he stays healthy, could be a pretty good player. I'm a little concerned about Jackson being a running quarterback, taking hits from NFL players. You saw kind of what happened with Vic. Vic was, of course, an electrifying player, but once he started getting hurt and a little dinged up here and there, he wasn't the same player.
Major difference between Vic and Jackson, though. Jackson wants to pass first. And if you watch a lot of him at Louisville, he was similar to Geno Smith. Now, I'm not saying he's not anywhere near Geno, but Geno was an athletic. No, I hope for. Actually, I don't care about the Ravens. I don't care if he is Geno. Sorry, Josh.
I know. If you're a Ravens fan, you better hope he's better.
Yeah, but just in a similar facet where Geno was athletic enough to run, but he'd rather pass, where Lamar Jackson he's more athletic than Geno, and he can use his legs. But Lamar Jackson would rather stand and deliver. He was more accurate than Vic. His arm's obviously not as strong because I don't think we've ever seen his arm as strong as Michael Vick. But He wants to pass first, which is always a good sign when you have these athletic quarterbacks that can use their legs but choose to always do the pass route first.
Right, I completely agree. And I did know that Lamar Jackson said, I want to be able to throw from the pocket, which is great, but it's also going to require a little bit of work too. You're changing a big part of your game. You're learning something new, changing your play style. So he might be in the perfect situation with the Ravens right now because you know that he's not going to be playing right away. They're still going to roll with Flacco
and they
for
stink,
at least
which is nice.
Season.
They stink, so nothing's expected of them.
Right. So I like the Ravens with Lamar Jackson, and the Broncos pass rush with Von Miller and Chubb is going to be really, really good.
The Browns are
I
stupid.
thought those teams had good drafts. I was a little surprised the Broncos didn't take a quarterback though.
I think they had to take Bradley Chubb because the Browns were dumb to get. I don't even care about that cornerback's name or where he's from or anything about him, because at number 4 you take Bradley Chubb. You put him next to Myles Garrett and you get a great pass rush. No, stupidity. The Browns did the Browns things, even though I do like the Baker pick. Yep. But besides that, the Browns had a good back end of the draft. I thought past round 1, Baker is a good pick. I hate their cornerback, but I thought that they did a decent job in the draft. Now, my favorite team, you already talked about them. My favorite player in the draft is Quentin Nelson, and I would argue with people that I think he's the best player in the draft. I know people think Saquon Barkley is, and don't get me wrong, Saquon Barkley could be a freak, but I think if you're looking at a guy who's going to be an All-Pro, who's going to be a Hall of Famer, my money's on Quentin Nelson, not on Saquon Barkley. So,
it's hard to disagree with that. I know the Giants, the rumor that there, of course, is never going to get confirmed, is that the Giants had Barkley, Chubb, and Nelson rated very closely, if not equally. The Giants,
and who can blame them?
WFAN said that the Giants had Barkley was the highest. Or coming out of the combine, Barkley and Nelson were the two guys that were the highest on their board. They thought they were the two best players, but Chubb was really close. I don't think you could have gone wrong with any one of those 3 players.
But just in David Gettleman's eyes, he had issues at quarterback with Eli getting older. He couldn't run the football. Yeah, the line was an issue, but there's no way having the second pick you could justify taking a guard or a undersized pass rusher, because Bradley Chubb is super talented, but he's an undersized pass rusher. So,
well, the interesting thing is you could say the same thing about Barkley. Can you justify taking a running back at number 2?
When he's considered the best player in the draft, yeah, I think he was forced into that. I think that he wanted to take Quentin Nelson because he loves the hog mollies. He wants the big guys. But I think the flack he would have gotten if Saquon Barkley went to another team and had a Hall of Fame season, and even if Quentin Nelson was a really nice player, Hall of Fame or everything, if people would have watched Saquon Barkley score 20 touchdowns a season, Gettleman would have been screwed. He had to do this.
Yeah, and it's still not a guarantee, because if Barkley ends up not being what he's being hyped as, and the Giants are in what's called quarterback hell after Eli Manning is gone, that could come back to bite them.
It could, but I think in the end,
it's a bit risky.
In the end, I don't think anyone's going to burn Gettleman for taking Barkley. Even if he does turn out to be crap, they're going to look at it and go, well, I would have done that too. So it was a good pick at the time with what they knew. It was kind of like Ron Dane. Ron Dane was a great pick for the Giants. He didn't work out well past one season, but he was a really good pick at the time. Heisman winner. Come on.
Yeah,
so
he was a Heisman winner, but if you look back at that 2000 draft, there was a nice little running back called Sean Alexander that went after Ron Dane.
Yeah, I think he was okay.
There are a lot of Giant fans who still haven't forgiven that.
Yeah, I think he was all right. But, something also that probably shouldn't be forgiven. This is a ridiculous story that my buddy Rudy Kolich brought up to me. Shout out Rudy. Rudy's living in Colombia right now. I don't think you know Rudy Billy. He's one of my friends that I lived with at Marist. But he's living in Colombia, living the friggin' dream. But he brought this to my attention. A few Redskins cheerleaders have stepped up and said that on a trip to Costa Rica where they were taking pictures for their calendar, they were forced to do things that they didn't want to do. They were forced to pose and take pictures topless in body paint, which I guess some of them didn't want to do. And also, they were forced to go basically be entertainment escorts. Apparently, there was no sex that happened, but they were forced to flirt with guys and were basically told you have to go to this adults-only nightclub and entertain this group of 9 guys that they brought to be with the team. Billy, what the hell are the Redskins doing? They're probably the most scrutinized franchise because of their name. Their owner is a certified idiot, Jim Irsay level moron. What more can this franchise do before the league just kind of says you guys need to fold?
Well, they're never going to take a team that's been around for 80 years in the nation's capital, or they don't actually play in D.C. They play in Landover, Maryland, which is like in the suburbs of D.C. in Prince George's County. I know that it happened. I haven't read too much up on it. I said that I would this weekend.
Now, quickly, in the defense of the Redskins, I read, the comments were that they interviewed over the last 48 hours. They've been interviewing a lot of people. There's some conflicting stories about what occurred. The person that was supervising, I can't pronounce her name. It's some J name or whatever. She said that she never forced any of the ladies to do it. So there is more to come with this story. But, especially
it's developing.
In our social media day and age, number one, usually where there's smoke, there's fire. And even if there isn't fire, the media is going to make it be fire. And number two, it's just, why would you even, especially where there's no secrets. Maybe this could have gotten away during the big time LT years, the Michael Irvin Cowboy, where social media wasn't as big. Like, we know LT did more drugs than anyone on the planet while he was playing, but it was okay. There was no social media. Odell Beckham goes on a boat and maybe smokes some weed, and it's the biggest deal in the world. But in this social media time, you cannot do something this stupid. And they've been proven to be one of the dumbest franchises on the planet.
Yeah, and it's just the act itself is not something that you want to see. Especially if you took them there without saying what they were going to get involved in. And NFL cheerleaders are treated terribly. They're not paid well at all. I don't think they even make minimum wage.
Barely money. It's a side job for a lot of them. It's a passion.
Yeah, exactly. And it's supposed to, the defense that I've heard as well, they get increased exposure, but I don't completely think that's true either.
Well, there's, that's definitely going to be the next fight. And if people were ever against cheerleading, this is going to be another smoke to flame. This might spell the start of the end of NFL cheerleaders.
Yeah, you would just think with all of the stuff that's happened in the last year, the Me Too movement, everything that's happened in Hollywood, you would think that people would maybe wake up and say, maybe we shouldn't do this.
Oh, wait, that women have rights too? Holy crap. Yeah, I would never know, right? Holy shit. What are we doing?
Note the sarcasm there.
Yeah. I think people have listened to me enough. They know that I'm a big proprietor for women's sports, women's rights, all that stuff. So it's like...
Yep, as am I.
But, yeah, so, I'm happy that we're both in agreement that the Redskins are idiots. And this hopefully is developing. And I'll probably bring it up on another podcast when we get more up about it. But we're going to talk about one stupid franchise and go on to a franchise who has the tendencies to be dumb every once in a while. The New York Mets. Your Mets. They had a hot start. They were a fireball. They were tied for the best record in baseball.
Palming as you're saying this.
Setting records for, the best start in franchise history. And then they hit the pinnacle in the air and they started to come down and they hit terminal velocity really fast and have actually hit the earth at lightning speeds. They're still in a good position record-wise, but play-wise, they haven't played great. They had a scary instance with Jacob deGrom getting hurt. You guys could breathe. He's okay. He's scheduled basically to make his next start. Yep. It was scary when Cespedes slid in the third and looked like he broke 4 fingers. He's okay. He came back and played and hit a few home runs. Yep. But it's really, the Mets played well, but the issue is if deGrom or Syndergaard aren't on the mound, and Syndergaard hasn't been Syndergaard either. He's pitching well enough, but he hasn't played great. But if those two aren't on the mound, the Mets have problems. They're relying on, I put them as nursing home residents to play well, between Gonzalez, Frazier, Bruce. And you say Adrian Gonzalez isn't playing well. I say the fact that he's still able to swing the bat is him playing well. So I'm going to include him there. As Drupal Cabrera is helping carry the team, which is kind of embarrassing because he's a Drupal Cabrera.
Cabrera's had a great year, though, too. I mean, he's batting. He's the only guy on the team that's batting over 260. And he's batting something like 335 right now or something close to that.
But right now, Jose Reyes is your leadoff. Brandon Nimmo can't get a spot in the lineup, which is stupid.
He's in the lineup tonight.
He is. Figure it out to get him in the lineup every night and get Jose Reyes out of it every night. And
I know.
Icing on the cake, icing on the cake, Matt Harvey, now officially as of today, designated for assignment because he refused to go to the minors and drop down. So now he's forced to go to the minors and is basically on waivers. All that put together, we're going to talk Harvey a little bit first. Where do you think Harvey ends up? Is this kind of his way of... Did he think he forced his way out of this?
I was listening to WFA. I was listening to Mike Francesa as the news broke. Francesa, of course, was talking about horses in the Kentucky Derby. I really don't care about that.
Big horse guy, Francesa.
The news, I just had it on in the background, and then the news broke, and he brought on Ed Coleman, who's the Mets beat reporter for WFAN, and they said that this is something that's actually common with players that are represented by Scott Boras as their agent. Because what happens with Harvey now is he's DFA'd and he's gone, and another team can pick him up. If he agreed to the minor league rehab or the minor league assignment or whatever, there was a chance that Matt Harvey never makes it back to the majors.
Well, yeah, but the thing is, he's off the 40-man roster when he's designated for assignment, which means even if he went down to the minors, he wouldn't be able to be called up for the September call-ups. So, like you said, he's gone. Now, my quick question is, there was always the rumors about him ending up in pinstripes. Jordan Montgomery goes down. We have Herman starting. We still have Chance Adams. We still have Justice Sheffield. We have some other players that could come up. Do the Yankees take a flyer with Montgomery being hurt, or is this something where it might take a while, or are the Marlins going to pick him up because the Marlins love trash?
So, to be honest with you, I have no idea where Matt Harvey ends up, but I will say this. If you're a Yankee fan, I would just stay away. I don't even think it's worth it at this point. Harvey has had two major injuries in his career. He had the Tommy John surgery back in, I think, the end of 2013. He missed the entire 2014 season. He came back in 2015. He pitched pretty well. He was probably the Mets' second or third best starter that year.
In the playoffs in the World Series, he was your best pitcher.
Yeah. DeGrom was their best pitcher that year, but Harvey was pretty good too. Harvey had that tremendous Game 5 against the Royals, where he was great through 8 innings, and then they left him in about one batter too long, and the Mets lost. The Mets lost the series. They were not going to win that series anyway.
That was the Terry special, leaving a guy in, a batter, an inning too long.
Yep. And Harvey's never been the same pitcher since then, and then he had the thoracic outlet syndrome back in 2016. He had an entire rib removed from his body, and that's an injury that has been known to end careers for players. I think Josh Beckett was one of the guys that was never the same again after he had this. So for the Mets, if you're a Met fan, you follow the Mets, you've been following Matt Harvey, this is something that probably shouldn't surprise you. You kind of knew that he was trending down for 2 years, and his whole attitude with the partying, he showed up, I don't think he showed up at all for a game last year. And I think the Mets suspended him. It was around April or May last year. There was rumors about that, and then just this past weekend he was out in San Diego at clubs. It's a sad end for Matt Harvey. Matt Harvey represented a beacon of hope to Met fans for a long time when the Mets were terrible right around the turn of the decade. He was the first guy to be really good for them for this era of the Mets and kind of bring them back up. But,
and it's funny you bring that up because you look at the guys. Harvey's obviously now going to be gone. Zach Wheeler is fighting to keep a spot in the rotation, but once upon a time, Harvey was the ace and Wheeler was the heir apparent to be the number 2. Yeah, and it's really funny that went on. And then a guy like Jacob deGrom was just some weird dude that could kind of throw pretty hard and really athletic.
Yep, exactly.
And look what he became. And look what he became. Steven Matz was just a guy. He's fighting to get back to form. Syndergaard has probably been the only guy now that is a high pick, a highly touted, and he's living up to the bill, which is nice.
It's actually kind of funny. Syndergaard was acquired by the Mets in 2012 with the R.A. Dickey trade. So R.A. Dickey won the Cy Young with the Mets. The knuckleball pitcher, he was great that 1 year with the Mets.
Great trade for them, by the way. Great trade.
Yeah, they traded him for Travis d'Arnaud and Noah Syndergaard. Travis d'Arnaud was supposed to be the big catch in that trade, this highly touted catching prospect.
Awful.
Who now Absolutely is getting awful. Tommy John surgery. d'Arnaud was good for a little bit.
He could never hit. Healthy. He could never hit. d'Arnaud was not a good hitter. Stop it.
Yeah, that's not completely true. I think the 2015 season he hit close to 270. Which for a catcher is pretty decent.
I mean, yeah, but he still could. Listen, I'm a spoiled Yankees fan with Gary Sanchez, so no, that is not good.
Yeah. But anyway, Syndergaard was referred to by someone. It might have been John Heyman. I don't remember who, but someone referred to Syndergaard as a bag of balls. And now Syndergaard is what he is. And he hasn't been quite himself this year, but his second to last start, not the one he had a couple days ago, but the one before that, he was very good. It was what you want to see out of Syndergaard. He pitched, I think, over 7 innings, and the Mets lost the game anyway. The bullpen blew it, of course.
The bullpen, who was great earlier this year, definitely caught up to them. And that's kind of sad because, the bullpen was really consistent early in the year. And Mickey Callaway, this is really, I know he's young, it's new, he pulled all the right strings early. This is going to test him because it's been a tough 2 weeks for the Mets. You can't let a tough 2 weeks become a tough 3 weeks, become a tough month, become a tough month and a half. Like, this needs to get turned around, and they have a lot of veterans, and these veterans need to, put a spark under certain guys' ass. Ahmed Rosario needs to pick it up. He's one of the future.
Been disappointing.
He's the future of the team right now. He needs to pick it up.
Oh, I completely agree. I mean, he was rated one of the best prospects in baseball as late as last year and hasn't quite played like it so far. I mean, he's not even hitting above 250. And he's made some defensive errors in the field. Just not really what you want to see. Maybe we were a little caught up in the hype, but it hasn't been great. But, he's been suffering along with the rest of the team, too.
A guy that hasn't been suffering, that I think has really bounced back from a lot of criticism last year. He still gets criticism, which is a joke. But Yoenis Cespedes, the guy, his strikeouts have been high, but then again, you look at the MLB right now, whose strikeouts haven't been high. But right now, he's batting under 250, but he has 7 home runs, 26 RBIs, and beyond the numbers, if there's a runner in scoring position, especially in a big moment, he's getting them in.
Absolutely.
If the Mets are losing 14-2, that 2 was because he hit a 2-run homer. So it's like Yoenis Cespedes is doing all the right things right now, and I watched a guy steal second and then third. If anyone knows baseball, you know how hard it is to steal third. So Yoenis Cespedes is playing as good as I've ever seen him play since he came over to the Mets when he had that big spark. Then he kind of lulled down, and now I think he's picking it back up. He's not the problem at all. I actually think Yoenis Cespedes is an all-star at this point. And if he continues to play like this and doesn't get an all-star nod, there's a problem. But so I like Cespedes. I like what Cabrera is doing. I hope he can continue. And so what are your other prospects? Do you see the Mets working out of this 2-week slump that they're in? Because they're still in a good spot. The Braves have been a thorn in their side. The Braves are a good team. Jose Bautista's coming up. If he can get a semblance of the hitter he was on the Jays, that lineup just becomes really hard to pitch around. The Phillies have a lot of talent. The Nationals are stumbling. The Marlins are somewhere playing.
A joke.
They're a joke.
Just say they're a joke.
Yeah, but
they're a joke.
But yeah, they're playing the Renegades. They're playing the Hudson Valley Renegades, I think, tonight in short season. They're awful. But so I had the Mets getting to the wild card earlier this year. I really thought that they could do that. They need 3 more pitchers to even give them 5 good innings a game, beside that aren't named DeGrom and Syndergaard. What do you see for the rest of the season? Do you see the Mets turning this around and fighting for that wild card, winning over 81 games?
Well, my prediction going into the season was the Mets were going to win 86 games.
That's still pretty accurate, I think.
A little over 500.
Yeah.
86, it could get you into the wild card. It could not. I think the Mets in 2016, they won 87.
Hild, I think it could win this division with the way the Nationals are stumbling. 86, 87 wins could win this division.
Right, and here's the thing. If you told Met fans, on March 1st, that the Mets would be 17-12 after their first 29 games, and that the Nationals would be bad, we would have signed up for that immediately. But the problem is how the Mets got there. The Mets started 11-1, and since April 14th, they have the second worst record in the entire National League. And the NL East was viewed as a joke division. Kenley Jansen said there's only one team that's trying to win it, and it's the Nationals. Well, the Nationals are currently in 4th. The Marlins, as I said, are a joke. They sold off the whole team except for JT Realmuto pretty much. But the Braves are really a rising team. They're going to be tremendous between Freeman and Swanson and all these. They have a lot of young position players. They're going to be a force for a long time.
In 2 years, it's the Braves and the Phillies to win the division.
Right now, that's the way that it looks. But again, it's a long season, and I was excited when the Mets started 11-1, but I wasn't calling World Series yet. I said, all right, it's a good start, but the Mets have gotten off the good starts before.
You're a veteran Mets fan.
Imploded. And, the way that they were winning, they weren't exactly playing well, but they were scraping by. Now, that counts because wins are wins, and you need to win games to get into the playoffs. But, they were pulling out these games really late in the 8th inning or the 9th inning. And I said at that point, Syndergaard and DeGrom and Cespedes haven't gotten going yet because DeGrom still wasn't pitching that great at that point, but he's picked it up. Cespedes was not even hitting 200 at that point. Now he's hitting closer to 240. So he's starting to kind of pick it up and come out of the slump. But as you said, every hit that Cespedes was getting was one that mattered. He was delivering he delivered 2 or 3 game-winning RBIs for the Mets. So you kind of say, hey, you know what? If he's making all the hits when they count, you'll take it. And he was playing pretty well in the field, too. We always knew that he had a big arm. He was gunning down guys at home from way, way out in left field.
He has a cannon.
But the problem is that the rest of the lineup that was okay to start the season, they're all coming back to earth, with the exception of Frazier, who's been pretty good. Frazier leads the team in on-base percentage, I believe. He's a great leader, consummate professional in the locker room, as you know, since you're a Yankee fan. He was on the Yankees last year. He leads the team in walks. He has 20 walks.
And he's from right where I am in Jersey. Tom's River is the sister, we're basically the redheaded stepsister town, Manchester, of Tom's River. Todd Frazier played, when he won the Little League World Series, he played against my sister's group of friends. My sister's 4 years older than me. He played them in Little League. Cool. So the Fraziers and stuff, and actually he works, he does a baseball clinic out of my buddy's gym, Brian Blue. He's runs All-Star Sports Academy in Toms River, New Jersey. He's the strength and conditioning coach for Frankie Edgar for UFC, and Edison Barboza and Corey Anderson, a whole stable of guys. So it's really a small world, so I'm really happy for Todd in general. I was happy with what he was doing in Cincinnati. Loved when he came over to the Yankees. Loved that he stayed in New York. Could stay close to home. So I'm a Frazier fan through and through.
Yeah, he's been good.
Yeah. So, you look at your lineup. You have Cespedes playing well. Cabrera hopefully can keep it up playing very well. Frazier playing well. Jay Bruce needs to play first base because you need to put Nimmo in the outfield every day. And I don't think that could be a question anymore.
Oh, no, I don't think so either. Now, the one catch here is that Brandon Nimmo is hitting very well in pinch hitting appearances. Now, if you start playing Nimmo more, is he going to regress to, a 235 hitter? Maybe, but I think Nimmo has earned his way into the lineup. And
but Hild, 235 is still middle of the rung in your lineup, which is good right now. That's the thing. Yeah. 235 is actually a good Mets hitter right now.
And Nimmo was also down the stretch last year when the Mets were playing meaningless baseball. He was a pretty decent leadoff hitter for them, too.
Exactly. And he's so much better than Jose Reyes.
Nothing.
Conforto
and Reyes have been hitting leadoff for the Mets, and Conforto's batting 200 right now. Conforto, I don't know what's going on with him, if he came back too early or what.
Conforto will be okay.
He needs to play better. I think he'll be okay, too. But he needs to play better, definitely.
Without a doubt. So, Mets, I still stand by my prediction, Mets wild card. I like your 86 number. I think that's a good number for them. It's been tough. I don't think the doom and gloom should stay. But we're going to move on from the Mets because I think we're done depressing everybody.
Sure.
We're going to go to a segment which I like to call, which is going to be another fan joke. But the segment's called No One Cares About Hockey, Boomer. And if you listen to Boomer and Gio in the morning, Boomer Esiason, and it doesn't matter. You could be talking about Pinochle. He'll figure out a way to bring it back to hockey and the Rangers. And, if I was, with Pinochle, you got to do this. And the Rangers do that great. Or they've done terrible. And it's great. It's pretty damn annoying sometimes. And it's one of the things that Craig Carton was great at was checking him with the hockey. Because he would literally shut him down and be like, Boomer, no one cares. We're going on to this.
Yeah, I know.
Gio can't do that yet. Even though he does try sometimes. But Boomer shuts him down. But we're going to talk a little Rangers. First off, head coaching search. How do you feel about the comfort level? They just let the University of Denver head coach walk when he told them he would like to return to Denver. They liked his credentials, they liked his attitude, but then when he said, "I want to go back to Denver," the Rangers are kind of like, "All right, bye, Daryl. Bye, dude. See you later." What do you think? Do you think they're going to make the right move in head coach? Do you have any confidence there?
Well, before we talk about the Rangers coaches, they let Alain Vigneault go. Alain Vigneault was the Rangers coach for 4 years. His first year, they went to the Stanley Cup Finals. They lost to the Los Angeles Kings in 5 games, although it really wasn't 5 games because 3 or 4 of them went into overtime. Some of them went to multiple overtimes. They really played 6 full games.
The Kings were given a championship twice. I'm tired of the LA Kings. I don't think they're as good as advertised. I think they were given the championships against the Devils and the Rangers because they didn't want the Devils and the Rangers to get more championships in the Northeast. And NHL has been trying to promote hockey in LA forever.
Oh, come on. We've had 1 Stanley Cup since World War II. Cut us a break.
Jesus.
And that one was it was almost 25 years ago.
Oh, I agree. I would like I was rooting for the Rangers as much as it hurt me as a Devils fan. I just hate LA Kings so much because I don't think they're that good. And I think they had a run, and I think the NHL had a lot to do. I think Gary Bettman was like, I'm going to make LA hockey a thing. And I think he did. And I think the refs, we're going to find out in a 30 for 30 15 years from now that the refs have a lot of money in their pocket.
Well, that would be very interesting. I mean, the NBA already had a similar thing with Tim Donaghy, but that was and years ago.
We're aging ourselves, Hill, talking about Tim Donaghy. You just said something that if a kid comes on, he's going to be like, who the hell is Tim Donaghy?
Oh, I know. And to be honest with you, I just remember it vaguely because I was young when it happened. But,
I was old enough to remember it.
So the Rangers, as we said, they're in the middle of a coaching search. So Jim Montgomery was the University of Denver men's ice hockey coach. They won the NCAA championship back in 2017. He actually just today or yesterday did a 180, and now he's actually going to the Dallas Stars. So he's going to be the Dallas Stars head coach.
I didn't even see that. That's kind of how do you pass up the Rangers for the Stars?
Well, the Rangers are looking for a coach that's going to develop the young players. Alain Vigneault kind of walked into a team that was ready to win now. He favored a lot of mediocre veterans over young players, and that's just not what they need right now. So the Rangers have been looking at a lot of minor league coaches and college coaches. Jim Montgomery was one of them. He interviewed with them. They also interviewed another coach, or I don't know if they interviewed him, but they were at least interested in him. His name was tied to the Rangers, was David Quinn, who's the Boston University coach. And
he has
Boston
ties.
University, as we know, they're a very big hockey school. And he told the Rangers he wasn't interested. And to take the Rangers job, too, he would have to resign from being the head coach of the 2019 USA Junior men's hockey team. This setup's pretty good right now. The timing's just not good.
Yeah.
The one name that I've seen that I think would be very interesting is Sheldon Keefe, who's the coach of the Toronto Marlies of the AHL. So they're the main affiliate of the Toronto Maple Leafs. And you know that the Maple Leafs were a stellar team for a while, and in the past 2 years they've gotten really good, in part because of Austin Matthews being drafted there.
Well, that's also the architect of the Devils championships, Lou Lamoriello, who just stepped down. And if anyone listened to my sports update on Wednesday, really looks like he's stepped down to take the Islanders GM job, which would actually suck for both of us as Rangers and Devils fans.
Well, for the Islanders to make him their GM, they would have to fire Garth Snow. And I have no idea why Garth Snow is still there because he's terrible.
Well, he stepped down. He's just something in the organization. He stepped down, though.
Lamoriello did?
No, Snow. Snow stepped down from his official position as hockey. He doesn't run hockey operations anymore.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that. I didn't see that.
They're on a search for a GM and someone to run their hockey operations. And then Lamoriello stepping down is kind of like the perfect circle right now.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that.
Yep.
Oh, thanks for informing me.
You got to listen to the weekly updates, man. That's why I give my New York weekly updates. I cover every New York team.
Yeah, it's good to know. The one guy, going back to the Rangers coaching search, that Larry Brooks, who writes for the New York Post, he writes about all things hockey. said Scott Gordon could be a possibility. Now, Scott Gordon was a former Islanders coach around 2007. He was the predecessor to Jack Capuano, who the Islanders fired about a year ago. He coaches in the AHL right now. I think he coaches the Lehigh Valley Phantoms. I think they're the affiliate of the Philadelphia Flyers, but I'm not 100% sure about that. And he has history with the current Rangers GM, Jeff Gordon, because they both used to be in the Bruins organization. So that's a name that could come up. And Jeff Gordon, the Rangers general manager, has said in radio interviews that I haven't heard that he feels that some coaches do better with a second shot. So that could be a name that's in there as well. But my gut is with the Rangers head coaching search, it might just be a guy that comes out of nowhere. I mean, they might not have their guy yet. A lot of the teams are still playing, both in the minor leagues and international leagues and in the NHL playoffs. So the guy that they're targeting may not even be available for them right now, which is kind of what happened with the Giants with Pat Shurmur. Pat Shurmur went all the way to the NFC title game with the Minnesota Vikings in football, and the Giants hired him right after they were eliminated.
Yeah, so there's always that possibility that, they're just delaying the search, whatever, because they want to wait for their guy to come out and interview from the playoffs. Now, head coach aside, they're obviously in rebuild mode. What is your confidence for the Rangers brass to really make this rebuild a possibility? And do you think it's going to be a competitive rebuild, kind of what my Devils did, where they never really fell to being the bottom, but now they have a lot of young talent. They're set up to be competitive for the next at least 5-10 years. Do you think that it's going to be a competitive rebuild similar to what the Devils have done, or you think it's going to be kind of, they traded away a lot of their guys. They were they bottomed out this year without the record to support it. But do you think they're going to be able to do a competitive rebuild or just a bottom out?
Well, I think it kind of depends on what happens with this draft. Now, the Rangers finished with a lottery pick for the first time since 2010 this year because they didn't make the playoffs. And I believe that getting that one impact guy immediately makes your team that much better. And you saw what happened with the Devils this year with Taylor Hall, how good Taylor Hall was. The Devils immediately became a lot better when Hall started scoring.
And Nico Hischier
basically at will.
Nico was just a stud for the Devils, Hischier. Right. So
yeah, and you could say Austin Matthews has had the same kind of impact on the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Yeah. Yep.
Unfortunately, the Rangers finished 8th in the draft lottery, and then because Carolina was picking behind them, won a top 3 draft pick, the Rangers got bumped down to 9th. They have 2 other first-round picks as well because of the trades that they made.
Yep.
And Jeff Gordon said he may try to use those to trade up. So we'll see if they can get into that top 5. But the problem is, and I know that the Rangers haven't had great draft history, but I did some research on this, and it doesn't give you a lot of faith that the guy that they're going to get with that first-round pick is good. Of all their top 10 draft picks, I can just go through this list. Manny Malhotra was the 7th overall pick in 1998. He had a decent career, but mostly with other teams, and he never scored more than 14 goals in the season. Pavel Brendel was the 4th overall pick in 99. He played in 78 career games, and none of them were with the Rangers. There are 82 games in a season, so he didn't even make a full season in the NHL. He was the 4th overall pick. And it gets even better. Jamie Lundmark, the Rangers had 2 top 10 picks that year. Jamie Lundmark was the other one. He played 112 games with the Rangers. He scored a whopping 30 points. He hasn't been in the NHL since 2010. So it gets even worse.
Oh, Jesus.
And now this one...
Still going.
I have to mention this guy because he wasn't a top 10 pick, but it's close enough and it counts. And that was Hugh Jessamine, who was the 12th overall pick in 2003. And I remember when the Rangers drafted him, they called him the huge specimen because he was big. He was this raw player out of Dartmouth. If you don't know, a lot of NHL analysts say that the 2003 draft was the most talented first-round class of all time. Hugh Jessamine was drafted ahead of 9 all-star players, including Zach Parise, Ryan Getzlaf, Mike Richards, and Corey Perry.
Those are some
Hugh
good
Jessamine
names.
Played in 2 NHL games in his entire career, and neither of them were with the Rangers. I don't even know if he ever made the Hartford Wolfpack minor league team. I think he did, but he didn't make much of an impact there. So it was, best draft class of all time. We got one of the worst players. It was awesome. And then more recently, Dylan McElrath, 10th overall, 2010. He's played 41 career NHL games, and he's basically a career minor leaguer. He did play for the Rangers, but he wasn't that good.
So I think, honestly, you're talking about guys that even if you were a diehard Rangers and hockey fan, you probably didn't know half the dudes that you even said, which is pretty funny.
But I know my team.
Yeah, but so there's a few things going on. So your confidence in the first round pick is obviously a little low, but I think they're going to do okay with the rebuild. But there's a few rumors going around that I think could derail a kind of true rebuild because you guys are linked to picking up possibly Karlsson.
I know where you're going with this.
And also, Ilya Kovalchuk is rumored to be coming back. If you pick up guys like Karlsson and Kovalchuk, that feels more like a win-now thing. And King Henry's still around. He didn't agree. He agreed to not leave for the rebuild because he wants to stay around. What are the probabilities that the Rangers go, let's give this one more try? I think that would be a mistake.
Well, they already committed to a full rebuild. But we can tackle Karlsson and Kovalchuk separately. Karlsson is 27 years old, so I think bringing him in, if he ends up leaving Ottawa, would make a lot more sense. I could see Karlsson on the Rangers that he's the kind of player that they're looking for. They said they want guys that are tough, and Karlsson basically beat the Rangers by himself in the playoffs last year, playing with a broken ankle. He wrecked that series by himself. So I would love to have Karlsson on the Rangers. Kovalchuk is a little different. And it was reported that he would sign with them. They can't legally do it yet because it has to depend on the new league you're starting or something like that. And I agree with you. I'm not a huge fan of it because it just runs counterintuitive to what the Rangers are trying to do. They're trying to get younger and develop their younger players. Kovalchuk's 35 years old. And I think he can still play and he can still give you value, but I don't know how his KHL stats would translate to the NHL because the KHL is a lower league. And for listeners who don't know, the KHL is the Continental Hockey League, which is the premier league in Russia.
I hope he comes to you guys and just fails terribly because he screwed the Devils. And
it wouldn't be the first time.
And he just left us high and dry after we tried to give him a lifetime contract that the NHL blocked, which I think is the funniest thing on the planet. That the Devils tried to sign him for literally for life. I think it was a 100-year contract. It was something insane. But
I think it was 20. Wasn't it 20?
I think it was longer. It was something ridiculous that the NHL was like, you really just can't do that. You just kind of took advantage of every rule possible, and we hate you guys.
Yeah.
Bad Devils.
The Islanders did something similar with Rick DiPietro. They signed Rick DiPietro, who was a goaltender, to a 15-year deal, and he made it, I think, 3 years in. And he just ended up getting hurt.
A subpar goaltender and a really, really subpar radio personality. God, DiPietro's not very good.
Yeah, he's on ESPN, right?
Yeah, he's on ESPN, and yeah, exactly. You like sports and you like radio, and you barely knew where he was. But
yeah, I don't care to hear a former Islander talk about my team. I just don't.
And the thing is, he talks about other sports more than hockey, which goes to show a lot about his hockey acumen.
Now, here's the interesting thing with Kovalchuk that I should bring up. When the Rangers, around 11 to 12 years ago, the Rangers had done a similar fire sale to what they did now, but they traded for Jaromir Jagr. And Jaromir Jagr was very good for them, and he was kind of this veteran presence mentor guy, and he produced for them. Jagr had he scored 52 goals in the 2005-2006 season, which is the most that a Ranger player has ever scored this season.
All right, but I'm going to stop you. Jagr has been a selfless leader his whole career. Kovalchuk was a Devil. Kovalchuk is a pretty selfish dude that wants to get his. So that's where the talent-wise, sure, but the comparisons besides that end.
Right, and of course, Jagr is one of the greatest players of all time, and he's played in the NHL for over 20 years. He's had an incredible career that you might not ever see again.
It's unbelievable.
People said that with Gordie Howe, and then Jaromir Jagr did something similar. But anyway, the other thing, too, to bring up with Kovalchuk, he plays on the same KHL team as the Rangers' top goaltending prospect that they view as a successor to Henrik Lundqvist, Igor Shesterkin, who's 22 years old. He's supposed to be coming over in the next year or two at most. He might be splitting duty with Lundqvist as soon as the 2019 season. So if the Rangers get Kovalchuk over, that might cause Shesterkin to come over early. So that's also something that they might be considering.
So the Rangers' rebuild is fully underway. It sounds like Hild has some confidence in what they're going to do. And if he does, Rangers fans, you should, because Hild knows his shit. And if he's not...
And I'm negative.
Yeah, exactly. If he's one of the more negative sports dudes I ever talked to, so if he's not complaining about it, then there's something good there. We're going to branch off a little bit because you do know more just beyond the Rangers. You know hockey pretty much in general. I want to talk about the expansion team that I don't consider a true expansion team. The Vegas Golden Knights, because the expansion draft rules were completely different. They were revolutionary and they were fantastic because they gave them a chance to be on a level playing field right away. But there's still a surprise considering it's a band of guys with talent, but they came together and pretty quickly gelled. I'm not surprised that they were a good team. I'm surprised that they're as good as they are. But what do you feel the Golden Knights can be? Can they sustain the success and now just become a franchise in the NHL that people fear?
Well, I just want to talk about Vegas in general. What they've done this year is something that you really have never seen in pro sports before. I mean, the Marlins won the World Series very early on in their history, and then they fire-sailed their team. The Diamondbacks kind of did the same thing. They beat the Yankees in 2001, that very epic post 9/11 7-game series. I just finished a book that was written about it, which was really good. The Last Night of the Yankee Dynasty. I'm not sure if you read it.
No, not yet. I want to though. I've heard of it.
It was written by Buster Olney. It was pretty good. And Vegas, the closest thing that you've seen to something like this, other than that, was the NFL with the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Carolina Panthers. And in their second seasons back in 1996, both of them made the conference title games, and they both lost. The Jaguars lost, I think, to the Patriots, and the Panthers lost to the Packers. But what's interesting with Vegas is that you look at their most productive players this year. William Karlsson has 42 goals this season. He has 78 total points. And before that, he was just this scrub player on the Blue Jackets that nobody had ever heard of before. Paula is their second-line center. He has 55 points. And Marchessault playing on left wing next to Karlsson, 27 goals, 48 assists, and that's 75 points total. So they have a lot of production. And then Marc-Andre Fleury, everyone likes to make fun of Marc-Andre Fleury, but this guy has his name on the Stanley Cup 3 times. He's a good veteran guy to have in that locker room. He's a proven goaltender that can win. He's been there before, and he might do it again this year, which, if he does, it'll be his third Stanley Cup in a row, which is pretty incredible.
It would be historic. And so
they took all the right players in the expansion draft.
Absolutely. And piggybacking off of that, is Vegas your Stanley Cup pick?
No, they're not. I think and this is just a gut feeling, I think the winner of the series between the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Boston Bruins is going to win the Stanley Cup. And
my prediction is that Nashville repeats. I like the Predators. No, well, repeats going back and then they win it.
Repeats going back.
Yeah.
Pittsburgh won.
Pittsburgh
Nashville
won.
Lost. But Nashville's a good pick, too. And Nashville, of course, is a great team. I was going to say something I forgot. I think this is a very wide-open league. The only team that I think is a little weaker is Pittsburgh. And right now they're in that series with the Capitals, and there's a lot of internet memes and jokes because the Capitals are in the second round of the playoffs again. They're playing the Penguins again. They might lose to the Penguins again. The Capitals in the Ovechkin era, they've never made it past the second round of the playoffs. It's 2-2 right now, I believe, the series. So we'll see if this might be the time where Ovechkin gets into the conference finals.
But
if they do, I think the Capitals could win it.
Don't forget, though, the
Pittsburgh
Penguins.
has their number.
The Penguins have the LeBron James of hockey, and you can't argue it. Sidney Crosby has been the best player in the league since he's gotten there. Still the best player in the league, fighting to continue to be the best player in the league.
Yeah,
so
as much as you hate him, he's good.
Connor
he's
McDavid,
a proven winner. He's won 3 Stanley Cups. It would not be surprising to me at all if he won another, 1 or 2 before he retires. Crosby, you have to remember, he came into the league at a very young age, and right now he's still not even really that old. I mean, he's 30, and he'll be 31 this year, so he still has a lot of hockey left.
And people are itching for Connor McDavid to take his spot. He's not there yet. He's not going to yet. Until Sid really declines, it's his league. And it's the LeBron factor is right there with Sidney Crosby.
Yeah. Ovechkin's a better goal scorer, but Crosby's a better player.
Without a doubt. And Billy, with that concludes our episode of the Sports Opinions Podcast. This was episode number 21. Bro, I had a lot of fun doing it.
Yeah, it was great. It was great talking to you again.
Without a doubt. Billy, again, give them your Twitter, Instagram plug.
All right, one more time. It's running, so it's running without the G, and then Hillbilly, and there's no spaces at all. It's just one word. Well, it's not technically a word.
Yeah.
That's Instagram and Twitter.
And for me on Twitter, you can find me at @_Questa30. Find Sports Opinions on Twitter at SportsOpinion30. You can find us on iTunes, Google Play Music, Spreaker.com, and YouTube. And for the intro and outro music, you're hearing David Cuesta at DQuesta308 and Joe Hackett Jr. at JoeHack_. Thanks again for listening, everyone. This is Alex Cuesta signing off. Have a good one.